The auction hall smelled of oil and fear. Rows of alien buyers sat in curved chairs, their eyes glowing under dim violet light, watching cages roll past on metal tracks. Every cage held a captured being, and every being was sold within seconds. Except one. The alien woman in the last cage had pale silver skin, long white hair, and eyes like broken glass. She did not scream or beg like the others. She stood still, watching the crowd with quiet defiance, as if she already knew what waited for her. The announcer called her price higher and higher, but no one raised a hand. Buyers whispered among themselves, some even backing away from their seats. One trader spat on the floor and said she was cursed, that her kind brought only disaster to whoever claimed them. The whispers spread fast, and soon not a single bidder in the hall would look at her. James Carter, a human trader who had wandered into this backwater station chasing rare mineral contracts, sat near the back, arms crossed, watching the whole scene unfold. He had seen greed, cruelty, and desperation in 100 markets across a dozen star systems. But something about this woman's stillness caught his attention. She was not broken. She was waiting. The announcer, growing impatient, finally shouted that she would be sold for scrap price just to clear the cage. Still nobody moved. James felt something twist in his chest, a mix of anger and curiosity he could not explain. He stood up before he could stop himself. The hall went silent as every alien head turned toward him. A human, bidding on the cursed woman. Murmurs turned into open laughter. Some buyers mocked him, calling him foolish, saying he would regret it before the week was out. The auctioneer, surprised but eager to close the sale, accepted his offer almost instantly. Papers were signed, credits transferred, and the cage door opened with a hiss of stale air. The woman stepped out slowly, her chains rattling against the floor, and looked directly at James for the first time. Her eyes held no gratitude, only a sharp, searching curiosity, as if she were trying to understand why a human would do something so reckless. James held her gaze and said nothing, only motioned for her to follow him toward the docking bay. Behind them, the whispers continued, growing louder, filled with warnings he chose to ignore. He did not yet know her name, her species, or why every other buyer in that hall feared her. All he knew was that leaving her in that cage felt wrong, and for a man who had spent years surviving on instinct alone, that was reason enough. Aboard James's ship, the silence between them stretched long and uncomfortable. The woman sat near the viewport, watching the stars streak past as the ship entered hyperlane travel, her chains now removed but her posture still guarded. James busied himself checking cargo readings, stealing glances at her every few minutes. She had not spoken a single word since leaving the station, and he was beginning to wonder if she even understood his language. Finally, she broke the silence herself, her voice calm and steady, carrying a strange accent that seemed to bend the air around it. She thanked him, though her tone suggested she still did not trust his reasons. James shrugged and said he did not like watching people get treated like garbage, alien or not. She studied him for a long moment, as if weighing whether that answer was enough. Over the next few days, James learned pieces of her story through careful, patient conversation. Her name was Sarah, and she came from a species called the Ashvale, a people once known across the galaxy for their ability to sense deception, danger, and hidden intentions. This gift had made them valuable allies to some empires and dangerous enemies to others. When a powerful trade cartel accused the Ashvale of sabotaging their operations using this same ability, the entire species was branded as cursed and untrustworthy, hunted down and sold into slavery across the Outer Rim. Sarah had been the last of her bloodline captured, and rumors claimed she carried knowledge that could expose the cartel's illegal dealings. James realized he had unknowingly bought himself trouble far bigger than a simple rescue. As if summoned by the thought, his ship's comm system crackled to life with an incoming distress signal disguised as a routine security check. Sarah immediately tensed, telling him the signal pattern matched cartel scout ships, the same ones known for hunting down escaped Ashvale. James's instincts sharpened instantly. He rerouted power to the engines and pulled up a star map, searching for any nearby system where they could disappear before the scouts triangulated their position. Sarah moved beside him, pointing to a cluster of asteroid fields on the map. explaining that Ashvale senses could detect ambushes even through solid rock. James hesitated only a second before trusting her judgment and adjusting course. As the ship veered off the main route, alarms began blinking across the console, warning of an approaching vessel closing in fast from the rear. The chase had begun, and James understood now that saving Sarah was only the first step of a much larger storm heading straight for both of them. The pursuing ship gained ground fast, its hull marked with the cartel's black and red insignia, a symbol James had heard whispered about in trade circles, but never seen this close. Sarah stood frozen for a moment, her eyes unfocused, as if listening to something beyond normal hearing. She warned James that the ship carried at least 6 armed enforcers and 1 commander who specialized in hunting Ashvale survivors. James gritted his teeth and pushed the engines past safe limits, weaving through the jagged asteroid field Sarah had pointed out earlier. Rocks the size of buildings spun past the viewport, some close enough to scrape against the shields. Behind them, the enforcer ship struggled to match the maneuver, its larger frame less suited for tight spaces. For a moment, it seemed they might escape cleanly, but then a targeting alarm blared through the cockpit. A tracking dart had latched onto the hull during the chase, allowing the enforcers to follow even if they lost visual contact. Sarah moved quickly, tracing her fingers along an access panel James did not even know existed, revealing a hidden diagnostic port left behind by the ship's previous owner. She explained that Ashvale could interface directly with certain older technology, sensing electrical patterns the way humans read facial expressions. Within seconds, she disabled the tracker remotely, but the effort left her breathing hard and her hands trembling. James asked if she was all right, and she admitted this level of sensing drained her more than she wanted to show. Before he could respond, the enforcer ship opened fire, forcing James to yank the controls hard to the left, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Sparks flew from a damaged console near the co-pilot seat. In the chaos, Sarah revealed the real reason the cartel wanted her so badly. She had witnessed their commander personally ordering the destruction of a neutral trading colony to hide evidence of illegal weapons smuggling, and her testimony could dismantle their entire operation if she ever reached a lawful station. James finally understood why every buyer in that auction hall had been too terrified to touch her. This was not superstition or curse talk. It was fear of what she knew and who would come looking for her. With the tracker gone, but the enemy still closing in, James spotted a narrow gap between 2 massive asteroids barely wide enough for his ship to pass through. It was a desperate gamble, one wrong move away from disaster, but staying on this course guaranteed capture. He looked at Sarah, silently asking if she trusted him enough to try it, and she nodded without hesitation, bracing herself against the seat as the ship dove straight toward the gap. The ship shot through the narrow gap with only meters to spare, metal groaning as asteroid debris scraped along the hull. Behind them, the enforcer ship, too large and too slow to follow, was forced to peel away or risk being crushed between the rocks. James let out a breath he did not realize he was holding, watching the pursuing vessel shrink on the radar until it vanished from range entirely. For the first time since the auction, Sarah allowed herself a small, tired smile, the tension in her shoulders finally easing. They set a new course toward a neutral station outside cartel influence, one known for housing independent investigators who dealt with corporate crimes across the outer systems. During the journey, Sarah explained more about her people's history, how the Ashvale had once served as trusted mediators between warring factions before the cartel twisted public opinion against them out of fear and greed. James listened closely, realizing the so-called curse everyone whispered about was nothing more than a lie built to justify cruelty. When they finally docked at the neutral station, Sarah walked forward to deliver her testimony, carrying data logs she had secretly gathered during her captivity, proof that showed the cartel's crimes in painful detail. Investigators reviewed the evidence immediately, their expressions shifting from doubt to alarm as they realized the scale of what she had uncovered. Within hours, alerts went out across several systems, freezing cartel assets and grounding their ships pending full investigation. News of the exposed smuggling ring spread quickly through trade networks, and for the first time in years, other Ashvale survivors still in hiding began reaching out, encouraged that someone had finally believed one of their own. Sarah stood at the center of it all, no longer the cursed woman nobody wanted, but a key witness who had helped bring down a criminal empire. Reporters and officials wanted to know why a random human trader had risked everything to save her from that auction block. James simply said he did not need a reason to know cruelty when he saw it, and that trusting someone based on rumors alone never sat right with him. Sarah turned to him after the crowd dispersed, her earlier suspicion completely gone, replaced by quiet respect and something warmer she did not yet have words for. She told him that Ashvale legends spoke of a single act of undeserved kindness being enough to change the fate of an entire people, and she finally understood what that meant. James simply smiled and asked where she planned to go next, half hoping she would say she wanted to stay aboard his ship a little longer. Sarah looked out at the stars beyond the station window and said quietly that, for the first time since her capture, she finally had a place worth choosing, and it stood right beside him.